Okay, hello everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, good evening. Just getting myself sorted out here. Welcome in. Make sure I have everything sorted. Hello, hi Mary, hi. Hi Tom, Willie B, hello, Marco. Oh, from Brazil. Oh my gosh, I bet that's amazing. I'm supposed to be living in a place you're like, man, that's great, but but I'd love to go to Brazil someday. Gorgeous. Karen, hi. Kate, welcome. Good to see everybody tonight. A little bit of a bonus. Happy to see me. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely. Hello, Becca. Trying to make sure that I come over here to the TikTok at least once a week. I am primarily spending a lot of my time over on the tube, of course, in preparation. But I'm definitely making sure to come over here. Oh, you feel down? Oh, I know, everybody, I know. Mr. Knowledge and Humor, yes. Well, yeah, it's hard to have a lot of humor right now, but we find a way. Somehow we find a way to make it through, everyone, and I know we will. It's a bit of a struggle right now. We're in a bit of a pickle, everybody. Hello, Kaya. Welcome. Oh, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Lordo. Warlordo. Oh, my goodness. That's so funny. So, yes, Kristen, I'm over here on the talk today. I'll be back on the tube probably tomorrow. So, exhausted and terrorized. Oh, my gosh. That's a perfect description. Perfect. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Legally speaking, to file complaints with our state AGs over the takeover, I would say legally you can. Now, if they're going to do anything, I don't know. But have you talked about what threat level we're at? Not yet. Yeah, so I will be on the tube tomorrow. So tonight I'm over here on the talk. I hope my message that I posted correctly. Every once in a while I'll post something and then I'm like, wait, that's not right. It happens, but something with Cannon's order. Okay, great. We love that. Is it bunker time yet? No, Daisy May, it is not. But I'm definitely taking inventory. Definitely making sure I have everything I need. I wonder because I've seen it suggested, but wasn't sure if they had a dog in the race. So the Attorney General's offices, right, they can say that the people in their state are being negatively affected by a federal action, right? So the AG's office is the one that would file on behalf of the state. So you can, yeah, the AG, that's definitely a good place to go. Just to make some noise. Now, whether or not that noise makes a difference, that I cannot tell you, but always good to try. I'm on an old phone, but I'm listening. All right, Sarah, that sounds great. No worries. Level midnight. No! No. Oh my gosh. Yes, indeed. So, it's been a bit worried. How do we get them all out? Well, that's a great question as well. You know, well, there's the voting part. And, probably the hardest thing, of course, is the P25 element where the executive, right, the chief executive officer, can put the political appointees in to wherever he wants. So it's a big deal. Can you do brief overview of these cases, the FBI cases? Yes, we're going to go through these tonight. I'm going to pull out the introduction, the facts in this case, and the facts actually are really interesting, come to think of it. So we'll go through it. We've got actually 2 lawsuits, everyone, filed by the FBI people, which, that doesn't happen very often. Impeachment solves nothing unless they all go. Well, yeah, I'm not sure about impeachment right now because there's a lot of minions that will not acknowledge the problem. So how can we support entities who are fighting against the regime? That's a good question. I would say ACLU. ACLU is an amazing place. And, there are a lot, and, I don't want to, I really have to say there are a lot of people working behind the scenes here. We don't get to really see, the public's not really privileged to see a lot of the work that's going on, but there is like a a red alert to all attorneys across the U.S. So we are all kind of keeping our eye on things right now. And I don't mean like Alaska watching Russia keeping our eye on it, but those of us in the field, we know that we may need to step in. We may need to come in with our lawsuits. So again, this is definitely going to be the presidential, the most lawsuits ever filed during a particular presidential term, in my opinion. Dolphin, I know, Dolphin. Oh my gosh, freaking out. I know. It definitely, yeah, with legal training. It is worrisome. It's troublesome. And, there are moments even when I get so frustrated. I posted a Hulk post the other day because I'm like, dude, Dems, where are you? And then I kind of sat back and I'm like, okay, there you are. So the best way, again, and people are saying checks and balances, it's a struggle because Congress has a Republican majority, even though it's really small. And then, of course, we have the president and his minions. But, the judicial branch is a check. And we don't have to just say the Supreme Court. The judicial branch has a lot of working pieces. Step in and get Elon out of the Treasury office. How could that go? So that's a good question, Andy. And I would say you have to have a reason for a court to take some action. So that could be a complaint. You could say, someone is violating my rights and I'm being harmed. So you could take that and that could go through the system. Again, you have to climb up the different steps. Keep that in mind, everyone. We don't just shoot straight to the Supreme Court. We have a couple of times for extreme emergency-like situations where that was really needed. But you have to have a claim. You have to have some damage that's been done that is able to be remedied by the court in order to bring those lawsuits. So we've got Elon Musk kind of in this weird gray zone of he's not been voted in. His position is like, what's his position? Nobody's really defining that and figuring that out. And of course, he's not confirmed by the Senate. And we've had questions on Jack Smith, right, who was appointed as special counsel through the Department of Justice, and that's been set out for 100 years. And they come in and say, well, he wasn't approved by the Senate, so how can he come in and do any of this stuff? So, they were playing that card, and now we're just like, well, Mr. Elon here is, whatever. Doing his own thing. No checks and balances. Extreme party controls all the branches. Well, we do. It's just a matter of, like our legal system, our checks and balances also take a little bit of time to click into place. Our data being exposed to 19-year-olds would be a pretty good lawsuit. That's a great question. We do have a Privacy Act, everyone, and I had just pulled that up. I don't have it at my fingertips at the moment. But there is a Privacy Act that is a federal statute regarding keeping your information safe. And again, I pulled it. I was looking at it and I don't know where it's at the moment. But we do have that Privacy Act. And anytime we've got a law that we think is being violated, right, it's not a criminal action. We've got a civil situation going on. Whoever's been harmed then would have a standing to bring the lawsuit. So I have no doubt the Privacy Act is being looked at, I would say probably for any kind of privacy deprivation by the government, you're going to be looking to the ACLU. Can we file a restraining order against DOJ? Which I'm saying incorrectly. A restraining order implies that you are going to suffer some kind of harm if they get into your stuff again. So you'd have to prove that. We're so early in this process, and it seems like it's taking months, but it's actually very early. We're only a few days into this Treasury situation where we can see, where's the harm? So the first harm that I'm looking at is the Privacy Act. The harm is that you're violating a statute and you need to be called out on that. But as far as a restraining order goes, I'm not sure about that. We could put something like a temporary restraining order in place in order to designate Elon's job and what power and protocols you have. But again, you need to have a piece of law that would allow for that, which could very well be the Privacy Act. I think that's a possibility. Wait for him to steal our money. Well, valid question. But on the other hand, we don't have enough information. And that's going to be kind of like the issue that we're going to run up against so many times is that we just don't have the information. Do we have any kind of probable cause? Do we have any kind of proof that he is actually pulling information in a way that violates any statute? That's what you need to have. You have to have some kind of law being violated in order to go forward on it. It can't be like a future situation. Unlike the TikTok, where they're like, in the future, maybe they could use our information. Like, apparently that one was okay by the U.S. Supreme Court because it was national security. But are we dealing with national security again? That's a great question, and one that has to be answered. And then we have to find the laws that are being violated. And I believe there may be some. They're breaking the law, right? And that means that they have to be held accountable. And how do you hold somebody accountable if they're breaking the law? Well, if it's a criminal law, we would go through the FBI on the federal level, Department of Justice. If it's a civil violation, then that's where our AGs could get involved in it, along with the people who are directly harmed. So they could also be involved. Brought in their own servers, have been downloading. Right. Does the Fourth Amendment protect us against this? So, great question. So the Fourth Amendment keeps us free from unreasonable searches and seizures. And the question becomes, is it unreasonable for them to go through consented documents that are put into an agency in the federal government? I would say with just that cursory view of the Privacy Act, I would say, yeah, there is a bit of that's supposed to be protected. But that Fourth Amendment piece only attaches in criminal cases. Can we sue civilly as the people? The tricky part about suing civilly, and we'll go through this because we've got a class action here by the FBI people, and we'll go through and we'll talk about it in greater detail. But the problem with suing civilly is that you have to show, what has been violated here. I would say this would probably be a negligent situation rather than an intentional tort. That means that we have to have a duty. So we have a duty of the Department of Treasury to keep our information protected. Then we have a breach of that duty, which would be Elon going in and taking that information. And then we have causation. And so we're going to say, well, he caused the harm because he went in and took our information. And then we have to look at the damages or the remedy. So what would the remedy be? And that's ultimately the question that we have to ask. What's the remedy? What is it that the courts could do at this point? Because if we've got all three pieces of negligence, then we're asking the court to do something. What are we going to ask them to do? That's the civil question, right? Download, right. What should they do? I mean, that's ultimately the fourth piece, to stop it. So to stop, let's get specific. We're going to stop what? Elon from having access? He's working under, the treason bit is always up. Remove Elon, right? So remove Elon. Well, we've got to really narrow it down. We have to narrow it down. Stay away from government buildings. 25 unfolding before our eyes. A bit, absolutely a bit. But, I mean, again, when we're talking about a civil suit, we have certain elements that we have to prove, right? So we have to have some kind of duty, right, which we're talking about, which is the duty to keep our information private and protected. We have a breach of duty, which occurred with Elon. We have causation. So Elon breaching his situation is what caused some harm. But then we need the remedy. Right. So this piece, this is the key piece here. We have to know what we're actually asking the court to do. Even tweet about it. Right. So what would we ask the court to do in this situation? Injunction on DOJ. Okay. So injunction for, and let's figure it out. An injunction for what? If we ask the courts, we would like something to stop. What exactly is it that we're trying to stop him from accessing information? Access to information. So let me pose this question to you, everybody, as we kind of go through the scenario right now, because it's just so stressful. So if we're asking a court to stop him from accessing information, his defense is going to be, the President of the United States told me I could, right? President of the United States gave me authorization to look at this information. He gave me the clearance. That's what he's going to say to the court, right? Writs of mandamus. Yeah, mandamus is always our last piece. Not elected. Right. Right. Can we ask him to deport? That's a good question. Is it even a real department? It's a great question. President isn't authorized to give him permission. So, right. So where does the authority come from that's allowed him to go in there? Right? So this is going to be the presidential authority. So when it comes to that, that's what we need to look up. We need to look up and see if a U.S. president can give basically an agent of the government permission to go in and get information out of one of the cabinet positions, out of the Department of Treasury, right? It's a data breach. Is he a citizen? He is. Monetary damages? Well, what kind? What kind of monetary damages are we looking at? Congress. But this Department of the Treasury, everyone, is a cabinet position. So this is part of the executive branch. It's not part of the congressional branch, right? So the executive has a lot of control over that. How do we fight this legally when DOJ comes out and said going against Elon is a crime? So the only way for anyone to go against anyone for it to be a crime is that there has to be some kind of a criminal statute, right? So there has to be a criminal law, and until a criminal law is passed saying that you cannot go against Elon, that's not in the cards. Not only that, but a statute like that, of course, would be unconstitutional, right? Right. The Privacy Act of 1974. Right. Exactly, Willie B. That's the act I'm talking about. And that's the one I think that we need to tap in on. We can use that, again, from my reading of it. That would be a great place to start. My understanding is that he is a citizen here. Conflict of interest for a federal contractor? Possibly. How is it he downloaded information, though? That's a good question, too, that we don't know. Theft of government funds. Ooh, I like that. Let's write that one down. 18 U.S. Code, Section 641. Ooh, that one looks good. So government funds. All right, and then, of course, let's write down the Privacy Act here. Privacy Act. So, I mean, what else do we have in here? What else do we have that we could go for? Misuse of government computer systems, meddling in foreign affairs, misappropriation of funds. Look at his application of his green card. Well, he was in the vet's headquarters too, right? Does he have clearance, right? And that's another piece too. So that, and of course, Mr. Trump should know what that is. Unauthorized security issue, right? So we have an unauthorized issue where he's gone in, but we've got to double check and see. And what's going to bump, one of the biggest, in my opinion, one of the biggest weaknesses for Mr. Trump is that he doesn't understand or follow the rules. And you don't get to be immune as the president for, administrative rules. That's just not how it works. So every time he cuts through and tries to circumvent that red tape, right, like our inspector generals, that's where they're going to get him. That's essentially the equivalent of Al Capone's tax issue. It's going to be the bureaucratic red tape, everyone. How do you get authorization? Well, that's the question, right? That's the question. Does the President of the United States have the authority to allow a layperson or a semi-quasi-government agent to go in and look at private information? Now, if you look at what actually happened in the Department of Treasury, we've got a couple of people that are like, get away. You're not allowed to be here. And those people that have been working there forever probably know the laws better than most of us. And so if they're saying that there's a legal violation, there probably is. There probably is. Right. Hasn't had his confirmation hearing. True, true, true. Special appointment, great question. And we've got special appointment situations where if you are specially appointed, you need to have Senate approval, just like all the cabinet positions. Everyone going into his cabinet, once they're in the cabinet, it's like, all the chaos that they want to have. But until they get into the cabinet, they have to be Senate approved. And he's not been Senate approved. We don't even know what his position is at this point. Those people were removed? Right. Those people were the ones that were harmed. See where I'm going with that? See how we have these pieces in order to bring a lawsuit. We have a duty, a breach, a causation, and a remedy. If we're looking at the people who were let go or somehow weren't paid or humiliated, pushed out of their positions, they are the ones who were harmed. They are the ones that can seek the remedy. 111 Rehabilitation Act. All right, we like that one too. Let's write it down here. 111. Rehabilitation Act 1973-88. Okay, so there's another one we can take a peek at too. And that's what's really important here, everyone, is to build these cases against their whatever their actions are by looking at the federal statutes that have been violated. So we're not coming in, we're not trying to say we're suing you, Mr. Trump, for money, so we don't have to worry about that presidential immunity. We're not saying you have committed a crime, we're going to prosecute, so that gets us around the DOJ and presidential immunity. We're talking about administrative rules that are not being followed. All right, so we don't have that presidential immunity situation. And besides, Elon Musk is not protected by that. Bribery and corruption. Ooh, that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one there. From my understanding, again, which isn't a lot, is that Mr. Trump has just come out and said, I think he called him Leon. He's like, so Leon can just do whatever he needs as long as it's what he told me he was going to do and we approve it. So, Federal Information Security. Yes. Oh, I like it. Okay, Federal Information Security. Hold on. Let me see. Extortion. I'm not sure. Yeah, we don't really have an extortion hook yet. Right. Federal Information Security Modernization Act. Oh, all right. I love it, everybody. This looks great. Yes. Keep going. Public Law 108 through 159 here. He called him Leon. CBA violation? Sure, exactly. Look into it. Let's look into it. Violation. There are just many situations here where he hasn't authorized more than 40 hours even. Very good. And that DOGE was not approved by Congress. So this whole piece, we've got two pieces. We've got the DOGE piece, and then we've got the Musk piece. So first we have a committee that he's put together that has not been affirmed or authorized by Congress, right? So congressional approval, that's really big. We don't have that in place, so technically there is no authority. And then we have a person who's coming in kind of as a quasi-agent for the president. So 2 rows to go down, the committee as well as the person. And we don't have congressional authorization in place yet. I have the privacy package they made anyone with a clearance sign. Can I email? Sure. Why don't you, Anti-Deficiency Act, my DMs are open. You want to DM me and we'll chat about it. Congress will approve it for him. Perhaps, Lisa, perhaps. But again, although the Republicans do have the majority, it's a slim majority. And whenever we have a slim majority, you just have to think to yourself, can 2 or 3 people be flipped? Right? So 2 or 3 people is all it's going to take to flip it around. And, that could happen. But on the other hand, maybe not. Sovereign wealth funds. Where's the money coming from? The Treasury? That's a good question. Are taxpayers paying Elon for this? Congress didn't approve and therefore didn't confirm. That's a great question. Right. Is he making money? Is Elon making money? Is he getting paid? Is he on the payroll? Because, it seems like he just kind of moved in and started doing stuff. that he doesn't have that kind of a contract put into place, not technically. So that's another huge question then when we're trying to define exactly what Mr. Musk is and what kind of authority he can have and what kind of authority the president has over him. Do we have a signed contract here? Do we have some kind of an employer-employee relationship going on? What exactly is his relationship? And if we don't have a proper relationship, that puts us back into negligence. Because now we can say, again, everyone, this is a civil case, right? The government has a duty to protect us. Mr. Musk, who has no authority and doesn't even have a contract as an employee, came in off the street and busted through that information. Now we've got another breach causation, so that caused the harm. So here in the remedy would be then some kind of damages paid out to anyone whose information was taken. And we'd have to find that. Okay, and we've got another one. Great. 18 USC 2510. Okay, 2510. I'm just writing all of these things down here. What kind of authority do you have to do in bringing a team without a contract clearance, etc.? Great question, Stacy. And, I would take even back to, let's pause for a minute and go back to Georgia, into Rico, right? Where we had Coffee County. I know my sticky notes are so professional, everybody. I'm at the top of my game. But if you look at the RICO, they went into Coffee County and they said, hey, we want to look at your servers. And they're like, you can't do that and we're not going to allow it. So they kicked them out. But they got charged for even asking to do that and then to go behind the back. Now we've got this Privacy Rights Act protected information that somebody off the street's just going into. Now he's got the backup of the president, number one. But number two, what kind of a role does he have with the president? Because that's not been defined. And because it's not been clearly defined, we don't know what kind of clearance he has because it depends on your job and what you're doing in order to get that kind of clearance. So we may have a security clearance violation. But then the next question is, can the president just come in and just say this person gets clearance? It's a good question. E-Government Act. Okay, let's write that down. E-Government Act of 2002. So that's another good question. Administrative Leave Act, sure. And again, everybody, it's the administrative law element of the entire country that is, again, going to be what brings Mr. Trump down. So that's what's going to be the problem. Yep, Privacy Act, I think, is probably the biggest for the one that I've come up with here, CFAA. Okay, CFAA. Whoa, those comments are going quick. Here, I gotta write it down. He was denied clearance. All right, so that's another thing we gotta look up. And there should be some kind of rationale. I keep wondering how Kash Patel got security clearance when he's been admonished, legally been admonished. Okay, yeah. So that's kind of what we're looking at. That's what we're looking. He was denied clearance. All right. So then we need to find denied clearance. And that even takes it to the next step, everybody. If he's been denied clearance and he's violated that, then now we have a criminal case. But with the FBI handling the criminal case and the DOJ for, Mr. Trump's buddies, we're going to have a bit of a problem with that. So it's going to be better to keep it in civil court than to pop it over into criminal court. Although statute of limitations, when he is out of office, he could get charged. State AG and treasurer, I want to know. Absolutely. Call your state AG, call your treasurer. And you know what else is another good thing, and I've been kind of talking about this a lot recently, is call the people. Call the rep. Who were the reps and the senators here who are confirming people, right? So call them up and be like, what's going on? Should I be worried about this? Or the appropriations committee, like, hey, what kind of stuff's going on here? Or Bernie, oh my gosh, anytime there's numbers involving Social Security, man, you got to get a line to Bernie because he will get, hot about it. State AG, and they said they were monitoring the situation. And that's the other piece to it, right? 38 U.S. Code. That's the other piece as well that I'm talking about too here. When we're going into, where's my, again, high quality teaching moment, everybody. When I'm talking talking about this remedy issue for the people who are just monitoring it. They're monitoring it because we need to see what harm is going to happen. We don't have a hook into the courts until we have a harm that is at play. So again, when we're going through these different statutes that people are bringing up here, 18 U.S.C. 201, 641, Privacy Act, 1-111, ADA, when we're looking through these different statutes, we're looking to see where the harm has been done. And we need to make sure we've got the evidence to show that some harm has been done. That's how you get a hook into the courts. Right? You called your representatives, said that they fielded 500 calls a day. Oh, I know. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you what, everybody, you're all making some noise out there, and I just love that. Any violation of the Federal Advisory Committee Act? Great question. Let's look at that. Federal Advisory Committee Act. Let me write that one down. Yes, we got to just pull it up. All of these statutes are available online. You can go pull it up and you can say, based off of what you know, what information we have, and of course we don't have all of the information, but look at the facts and the evidence that you have that you find reliable and then apply them to the statute. And that's why, for me, the Privacy Act of 1973 is such a big ticket item, because it does have this promise in place of securing your information. Of course, it came out during the Watergate situation for just such a moment like this. Right. But we have to see that there has been a harm done first. There has to be a harm done. It is incredibly frustrating. Go email a grievance to reps on the Privacy Act. Well, if that's what you want to do, I would say there is nothing wrong with calling your representatives, or even any representative. It doesn't have to be yours. It can be anybody. And saying, what the H is going on? Please explain it to me. Use a nice tone. So they don't just hang up on you. Hanging up on's for later. And just say, hey, can you explain to me what's happening here? Because I'm really scared. And those are the big words that get pinged. So when you're saying, I am in fear right now, please explain it to me so I can feel better about it. When you approach it from that direction, it forces whomever you're talking to really walk through it with you, or to figure it out for themselves. Like, you guys need to know what's going on. You need to figure out how this works. Harm to my mental health. Good point. I've been starting with emails I love it. Great. Emails, letters, calling people. Oh yeah, AOC's amazing. Representative Crockett's amazing. We've got some great people in there. And then they do sometimes. Absolutely. And so the thing is, if you call up your rep or your senator and you say, what's going on with Musk? And they say, well, what do you mean? And you're like, well, he went in the Treasury. And they're like, well, I'm not really sure. That's a moment in time where they have to acknowledge, this constituent knows more than I do, and I'm elected. And that's that moment you remind them, like, I put you in this office in order to, uphold the Constitution and my rights under the Constitution. And you don't even know what's going on. Like, dude, what's up? And just kind of put it that way. Active duty FAMs, you can use your duty station. Oh, yeah. So, right. Of course, has contracts with the federal government. So he sees other contracts. Conflict of interest, that absolutely. I mean, I cannot, conflicts of interest. One thing that we haven't really heard about, that we heard about so much during Trump's first term, was we didn't hear about how he's transferred all of his businesses, right? So part of the problems that led him to being, responsible for $500 million in fraud fines in New York was because once he had passed his business stuff over to whomever he did, then the records got kind of jacked up. But this time we haven't really heard anything. Like last time it was the day before he was sworn in. And this time I'm wondering, like, well, who's taking over his assets right now? That's a big question I've got. And then that could also be put in place for Musk as well. Like if he's got things that are conflicting with the federal government, I mean, there's rules against that. We have a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. Oh, he had to sell his peanut farm. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Oh, that's so sad. That's sad. So, appointed a J6er. So, yeah, now Marco Rubio, everybody, is a moment in time, I have to say. I'm sorry, he was unanimously approved. So, there's some people on the committee that voted for Mr. Rubio that could be called, and you could say, I'm sorry, can you explain your vote to me, please? They'll probably say something like, well, it was the least of the batch, the least worst, but that's not good enough, man. Yeah, I mean, El Salvador. Okay, so yeah, we got to talk about El Salvador at some point, don't we? Our Democrats are compromised. I'm not sure they're compromised. I just think for some reason I think there's a strategy involved, but they're not telling us what it is. And on half of that, that's a good idea. But on the other half of that, it's like a little bit like the TikTok ban. Like, if there's all these problems, why don't you let us know what some of them are? And then we'll support you. We'll be like, well, we'll voluntarily shut it down. But if you're going to keep it all to yourself, how am I supposed to, believe that there's really an issue here? So we've got to have some of those questions. Might be moving too slowly. Well, yeah, the ones at the tippy top, everyone, I would say at the top of the pyramid, Dems need to like get a Red Bull or something, Yes, to Gitmo. Well, again, and we've got to look and make sure that everyone has the right to equal protection, meaning they cannot have huge constitutional violations. But this has gone into panic territory. Dems need to tell us what they're doing to remedy this. I agree. I absolutely agree. Tell senators to block nominations. And there's a lot of things, actually, that our senators can do. I think is it the senator from Hawaii that was the one that said, I'm not going to go through the approval process right now until you get the USAID, you said, sorted out. Was it Hawaii? I think so. Like, that's how you do it, everybody. That's how you do it. Hawaii. Okay, it was Hawaii. Yes, and that's the thing, is you can give them some rope and, let them play with it. But in the meanwhile, you still have to tell us, like, what are you doing? Like, we're getting the rope. Like, okay, thanks. We'll leave you alone then. Off you go with your rope shenanigans. But you need to kind of give us some idea what's going on. Marbury versus Madison. Yeah, as per usual. Came up on my FYP. Oh, great. Hi, Diana. Welcome. Good to see you. They're still voting tonight. Yes. So we've got a lot of things on the table still. And there is, oh my gosh, and I can't believe I didn't write their name down. There are a few people here on the talk following the legislation. And so if you go and look around, you can kind of get the breaking news, I guess, just on the legislation that's going on. Kylie, for going over what's going on. Oh, absolutely. It's wild now. Yeah, it is. It is. I think they'll actually stop. No, I'm not sure about that. I think... who was that weird old man that was like, oh, if you got a problem, that's too bad. That's your problem. I can't remember who that dude was. But I was like, listen, dude, that's not very nice. Like, that's not how your mom said you should treat other people, sir. Oh, my goodness. I'm exhausted and stressed. Yes. So, and it's exhausting and it is stressful. But to kind of put to bed the Elon situation, everybody, before we start diving in, because there are just so many things going on. To put this to bed, I think the best thing I can say is we've got sets of statutes that are being violated here. And it makes sense because Trump doesn't know the government, Elon Musk doesn't know the government, and so they're going to go and make messes everywhere. Now, they can bully their way in and they can push people around saying, do you know who I am? And in the moment, that's, like, ouch, rude. But then you cannot escape those people that you have harmed coming back. And that's why we have it. Disability benefits will be affected. I'm not sure at this point. I would say the benefits, typically what I would say is that the benefits have all been doled out for the year because they had agreed to the budget. But then we had this federal spending situation, which was really weird and has been rescinded and stopped by 2 courts. So I've been saying, like, 2025, everyone should be okay because everything's set already. But, I'm not sure because they're doing all this weird stuff. Yeah, they're doing the weird stuff, everybody. Who's filing these charges and who will enforce the laws? So, do you mean just like for Elon? Because Elon's going to be a civil lawsuit and it's going to be only fun until March. Oh, that's too bad. Uh, the people that have been harmed, again, the people he was pushing around in the office, they would have grounds for suit. Whoever has suffered harm, like actual harm, and we have to show that, not just fear or stress, or, the emotional distress can be shown in some situations, but it's incredibly difficult. But you have to show some actual harm in order to go forward. Many times that's why lawsuits don't have standing, is because there's no remedy that the court can do to make it better, which is the goal of the civil system, right? Children's Medicaid, yeah, it's worrisome. It's definitely worrisome, but again, and everybody, you got to keep your eyes on Bernie. What's Bernie doing at this point? With the Medicare and the Medicaid and Social Security, I just zoom in on Bernie and I just am checking him out. I'm like, what are you doing today, sir? What can I do? Because he's going to know at least what's going on. Being investigated by other countries, does that have any pull? Good question. And my understanding with the lawsuits going on against Elon are, there's how do I want to put it? Europe has come in and is suing him. And I'm trying to remember the exact lawsuit, but hold on. I'm racking my brain. There is a lawsuit going on in there because of, maybe I got him mixed up with the curly-haired guy from the book face. I don't know. I get those two mixed up a lot. But anyway, we've got we do have some lawsuits going on how we're not appropriately interacting. So I'll have to take a look at those to remember how they went. 13 countries government. Okay. I will need to pull those suits. I've done posts on it, so I'm wondering if I can just put in Musk and lawsuits and probably pull some up. Zuckerberg. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm sorry. Curly-haired guy. That's all I can remember. Oh, that's terrible. Yes, the FCC. Yeah, we've definitely got some Zuckerberg. Oh my gosh, that's funny. We definitely have some issues. Tie up the courts. Well, the funny thing is about tying up the courts is that it's a problem, but it also slows everything down. It slows down what they want to do also. So once things kind of get gummed up and, the court system's triggered, the courts tend to say, let's pause this until we can sort it out, put a pin in it, and let's work through it. And so putting a pin into executive orders or into, privacy violations is actually, what we're looking for. So that's not a bad thing. Okay, Bernie did a post the other day. Okay, great. Yeah, I gotta go check on him because he's like, how we got to this point. Well, I think, in my opinion, I think it just ebbs and flows, everybody. We just have, we were climbing and then we're climbing backwards. We're going forwards and then we're going back. 47 approval rating. I think one of the things also we have to remember is that there's just bad people out there, everybody. There's 47% are like, I don't care who gets hurt. I just want to focus on me and myself. And, I'm going to vote just for me and myself and my family. And it doesn't matter who else gets hurt. So public notice on behalf of DOJ. I don't have it at my fingertips. Let me write it down here. AG public notice. Yeah. I will take a peek at that for sure. So, we have two distinct groups of people in the United States, everybody. We have the group that is just solely focused on their own livelihoods and their own profits and their own benefits. And they don't really care about the people working for them or the people who are, lower than them, like socioeconomically. So we have that group. And then we have another group that says, this is great. I'm working my keister off, but everyone that works their keister off should have an opportunity to, be comfortable and be okay in their lives. So those are two groups of people, and those two groups have always been here. It's just they present in different ways, right? Kleptocracy. Well, I mean, if you think about it, right, we had from the very beginning, we had a group of people saying, we should not be owning people and forcing them to work in horrific situations. That's wrong. And then we had another group of people say, but I'm making so much money. I'm making so much money on my cotton, on my tobacco, that I'm unwilling to do anything for humanity because I'm just making so much money. So now we have to look at it again. We've got a group of people saying, I just want to benefit my family, myself, and anything I can do in my own life. I don't care about anybody else. And we have another group of people just standing on the side watching and saying, oh my gosh, why are you guys destroying yourselves? So, it just goes back and forth, and the kind of questions and issues just switch around over time. Right. Canada. Well, yeah, Canada's got some troubles, I tell you, but who saw the Trudeau where he's like, for all of you Americans out there, we thought you were our friends. And I tell you what, you upset a Canadian. I know that's a terrible generalization, and it's not true. But I mean, if you go with the stereotype, you're like, wow, it seems like it takes a lot to push a Canadian that far. Oh my gosh, but that's not true. That you can't just, put all Canadians in there. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty awful. It's pretty awful, everybody. But one of the things we do in this country is that we make bad choices sometimes, and we write it out, and then we make it, we get it sorted better. You can stereotype us. No, I don't want the Monties coming after me. Whoa, that's really bad. Oh, I'm kidding. All right, everybody, save us from Elon. Oh, I know. So one of the things, again, one of the biggest checks that we have here in our system is the courts. And again, you have to go through the whole process. You can't just skip up to the Supreme Court every single time. The Supreme Court's got other stuff on their calendar. So we have, literally, we didn't do it, I know. We're like banging on the glass, help us, Canada, which we've been doing actually for a very long time, since the Articles of Confederation, actually, which actually put in there, hey, Canada, you want to join us? And Canada's like, no, y'all are crazy. And I was like, all the way back before the Declaration of Independence. We've got a history. So here we go. We've got 2 lawsuits that are being filed. And this is pretty major business, what's going on here. We've got, the FBI filing against the Department of Justice. And this is some pretty serious stuff here. This is where we have the Department of Justice sending in a questionnaire asking for information on any of the agents that were working on the January 6th stuff. That's like a pretty big deal. This is just week 3. Well, yeah, this is not sustainable. Something is going to break. And it's not going to be us, everybody. Something else is going to break. So, showed up to fight along. And we'll forever be grateful, Stacy, but we have to acknowledge they are their own people and they don't want to join us. And I get it. 90 plus agents. So, yeah, not only that, but I mean, there's thousands of agents that, could have come through this whole process. And the question becomes then, too, when you are doing your job, and this was brought up when the prosecutors were being fired, like you're doing your job that you are supposed to be doing and you get fired. Like this isn't some at-will meat packing plant here. This is the FBI. You're going in there saying you're done because you did your job. Like there's special training involved, huge amounts of vetting involved. And these agents work their keisters off for, to help the community, to help the states. And he's coming in and say, well, you went after me, so, you're done. Like, no, you can't do that. That's not allowable. Expedite this since it's so important. No, but by not expediting it means that the actions can't take place. Everything gets paused, right? So let's take a look. We have two cases again. The first case, and I'll just kind of skip through a few big pieces here. As always, you can pull the case up here. Here's the case number. Let me move this out of the way. I'm trying to keep the white paper out of the chat so everyone can see the comments better. So if I get my sleeves or the paper in the chat, I apologize for that. So this is the case number up here. This is document number 1, and that usually signifies this is a complaint. This is a civil complaint filed against the Department of Justice. It's a class action complaint because there are so many people involved. Now, let's take a look. We've got John and Jane Doe's 1 through 9, employees, agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation on behalf of themselves and those similarly situated. So this would affect any agent that was involved. And they're going against the Department of Justice. Again, this James McHenry person. And then it's a class action with a jury trial demand. Inundate Congress, the Senate. Absolutely. I agree. We don't even need to worry about frivolous lawsuits because there's so much out there that to have legitimate lawsuits. That's kind of where we're at as well. So, I mean, we don't even need to make stuff up. If you just file the suits that have proper grounds, it's going to take some time. All right. Class action complaint. And a lot of people have been asking me, can we file a class action against Elon Musk? Okay, look. You can file a class action against anybody you want, but just like you can, file a lawsuit against your neighbor, even if they don't do anything. Oh, they didn't rake their leaves. You can go to court and file against them. Doesn't mean that it's going to go anywhere or it's going to do anything or have any impact other than taking up some time. And I think the people that truly have the grounds for the class actions are getting together and getting it sorted. So just a heads up for that. These lawsuits will drag forever. So time's on our side, though. Time's on our side because as long as this question is up for debate, they're not having to go forward with the actions that are being requested of them. So here we go. Comes now plaintiffs, John and Jane Doe's 1 through 9, on behalf of themselves and all similarly situated current and former agents and or employees of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, by and through undersigned counsel with their class action complaint for injunctive relief. So that's what they're asking for. They're asking for this questionnaire and information being requested by the Department of Justice to be stopped. So they're asking for a pause and states as follows. So again, I'll just kind of take you through the beginning of this and then go through more of the questions here in a minute. Let me go ahead and put a sticky note on this one. And we're going to call this one case number 1, where we have literally the FBI versus the DOJ. All right, and this was filed today. There we go. So we'll go through the first set of facts. Now, a lot of this, and just to remind everybody, a lot of this is coming about because of this executive order that Trump put into place, which, is legally, this is not good. This is a bad thing. Granting pardons and commutation of sentences for certain offenses relating to the events at or near the United States. This piece here saying certain offenses, like, oh, I didn't pardon the, really bad ones. Not true. Not true. When you look to the language in this executive order here, we have, I do hereby commute the sentences of the following individuals convicted of offenses relating to events that occurred, blah, blah, blah. And then he lists all these people out here. And then next, I grant a full, complete, unconditional pardon to all other individuals convicted of offenses related to the events that occurred at or near. So he's not saying certain offenses in his language here. He's just saying offenses. And so with that huge line, with that huge sentence, everyone's like walking around going free. And that's a pretty big issue, especially because the FBI was involved in pulling a lot of them in. So keep that in mind as we continue to go through this. Plaintiffs are currently employed agents and or employees of the FBI who during the course of their duties worked on or participated in the investigation of persons suspected of criminal activity related to January 6th of 2021 attack on the United States Capitol building at the behest of Donald Trump and or the unlawful removal, retention, and storage of classified documents by Mr. Trump. So even the ones on the Mar-a-Lago case, of course, that were incredibly understanding and very kid gloves about everything, because they were trying to be respectful. Upon returning to the presidency, Mr. Trump has ordered the DOJ to conduct a review and purge of FBI personnel involved in these investigations and prosecutions. So, all right, this is a huge red flag, everybody. That's pretty big whoop-de-doo here when you've got the president going after the people trying to hold him accountable. This directive is unlawful and retaliatory and violates the Civil Service Reform Act of 5 U.S. Code Section 2301 and 2303. So, excuse me. So within the very first paragraph, they're citing the law that's being violated, which again is what we would need to do for Musk when he's going into the Department of Treasury. So they're saying he's violating this act right here within that first two paragraphs. So they're setting it out. So we're going to have to take a look and pull that statute apart to figure out exactly how it works and how it's applicable here. Again, this isn't an immunity situation. This is an administrative law situation where, there's certain requirements for employment. Additionally, on or about February 2nd of 2025, plaintiffs were instructed to fill out a survey that would identify their specific role in the January 9th and Mar-a-Lago cases. Some plaintiffs were required to fill out the survey themselves. Others were told that their supervisors would be filling out the form. Plaintiffs were informed that the aggregated information is going to be forwarded to upper management. Plaintiffs, T-Break, thank you so much. I'll catch that in just a second here. I have grape Kool-Aid tonight, everybody. It's like I'm living the dream. Plaintiffs assert that the purpose for this list is to identify agents to be terminated or to suffer other adverse employment action. Plaintiffs reasonably fear that all or parts of this list might be published by allies of President Trump. Let's pause for a minute. What's going to happen when they send in this list of FBI agents and that list gets leaked? I mean, right? Does no one go to the movies anymore, right? So that's not good. This is like the thumb drive list that James Bond is always after, isn't it? I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. Oh, maybe I'm thinking Jason Bourne. Right, so this is the Jason Bourne moment. Jason Bourne's like, that's not right. Thus placing themselves and their families in immediate danger of retribution by the now pardoned and at-large January 6th convicted felons. So another moment here, whenever I think about January 6th, I always think about, like in Batman, when the Joker goes in and releases all of his evil bad guys from jail. When he takes over Gotham, he's like, ha, 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 lets them all out of jail. And then eventually, Batman goes back and puts them all in jail again. But that's how I feel about the January 6ers, everybody. The Joker let them out. Defendants gathering, retention, and disclosure of plaintiffs' activities related to the acts of former President Trump is a violation of plaintiffs' rights under the First Amendment to the Constitution. So here's another ground, again, for violation. We have a civil violation. It is also a violation of plaintiffs' Fifth Amendment substantive and due process rights. Now, due process rights for the federal government are under the Fifth Amendment. If we were talking about a state government issue with due process, we would be looking at the 14th Amendment. So keep that in mind. That due process clause in the Fifth Amendment is specifically for federal government, such that the court has the authority to enjoin the serious harm it's likely to cause. Moreover, the publication or dissemination of the information in these surveys would be a violation of the Privacy Act. Here we go, everybody. This is the one we've been talking about. It's coming in. It's making the appearance. How is that a First Amendment right? Well, I mean, if they're going and saying, if you would think about it, if you're saying something against the president, right? If you're looking into a crime against the president and using that kind of speech, right? That's speech against the government. So I'm assuming that the grounds they're going to take with the First Amendment is, we did and said what we needed to say in order to do our job. And whatever we said was protected by the First Amendment because it was against the government. in that case. Oh, HIPAA, I'm not sure. And would place plaintiffs in immediate risk of serious harm. That's, by the way, that's my best guess on the First Amendment argument here. But they'll go through and explain it as we go through this. Accordingly, plaintiffs seek to enjoin the publication or dissemination of these surveys or any information derived therefrom. All right, so like their reports and testimony. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All of that should have been protected by the First Amendment, and they shouldn't be punished for whatever it was that they said. You know, they could have said, this is box 55 with all the nuke codes in it. You know, that's, that speech is against the government, right? Here are the parties. So they're employees of the FBI who worked on January 6th or the Mar-a-Lago case, who've been informed. So they're the ones that got the notice that they're likely to be terminated in the very near future. And for all activities, they intend to represent a class of at least 6,000 current and former FBI agents. So that's why I was holding back on how many people are going to be affected. They're estimating 6,000 agents. Oh, I've got a puzzle piece, everybody. We should be like, okay, fingers crossed. Did we do it? Oh, we did it. Yay. All right. So 6,000 agents, everybody. 6,000. That's going to be a lot of suits. That's why they put it in a civil suit, or they put it into class action. All right. Former FBI agents and employees who participated in some manner in the investigation and prosecution of crimes and abuses of power by Donald Trump or by those acting at his behest. Defendant is the current acting Attorney General for the United States and the person authorized and tasked with enacting the political will of President Trump. So that's not what you really want to hear out of a Department of Justice or an Attorney General, is the political will. The Federal Bureau of Investigations is an agency under the control of the Department of Justice, with its headquarters located on Pennsylvania Avenue. In D.C., all essential personnel decisions and employment records are housed at the FBI headquarters. So here's our jurisdiction that they're setting out. So pursuant to 28 United States Code, Section 1331, the court enjoys jurisdiction over this matter because plaintiffs assert the claims under the laws of the United States. This court also has jurisdiction over this matter because defendant is the agency of the United States. So they're just setting out why this court can hear this case. Defendant waives sovereign immunity because the Privacy Act allows for damages against the United States. So there's another key piece. If there's a violation of that Privacy Act, which they're saying there is, you can sue the United States. So we're not going after a president who might try to claim immunity. We're going after the United States here. All right, sovereign immunity for declaratory relief is waived. So again, immunity meaning they're immune from being sued. And by the fact that plaintiff asserts claims pursuant to the Constitution of the United States. So now we've got that First Amendment and that Fifth Amendment in play, which helps pull that sovereign immunity out of the realm. I don't know. That's a good question. Plaintiffs are not seeking any universally applicable are national remedy or injunction. They're not seeking some kind of national remedy, right? Rather, they're seeking injunctive relief only for themselves and the members of the putative class that are parties before the court. So they're not asking for any money. So no money. So we're going to call this Taylor Swift style, all right? They don't want any money, but what they do want is them to stop asking for this information. So the action that they're asking for is a list of people who worked on these cases in January 6th and information about them. And so what they're asking for is that they don't want to have to fill that paperwork out and get fired over it. So that's kind of a moment there. Right. So Taylor Swift asked for nominal damages. She asked for $1 in that harassment lawsuit that she was part of, the defamation case, where she's like, I don't need any money, but I need you to acknowledge you were wrong. And there you have it. So here we go. Let's go through some of the applicable facts to all plaintiffs. The FBI investigates a variety of crimes, including terrorism, cybercrime, white-collar crimes, and public corruption. The FBI collects, analyzes, and shares intelligence to understand and combat security threats. Additionally, the FBI provides services like fingerprint identification, laboratory examinations, and training. The FBI protects the United States from foreign intelligence, espionage, and cyber operations, and combats cyber-based attacks and high-technology crimes. So I'm sure 6,000 agents wouldn't make any difference on the day-to-day for the FBI. Yikes! The FBI is part of the Department of Justice and reports its investigations to the Attorney General and United States Attorney's offices. It is impossible to overstate the importance of the FBI's work to the security of the United States. I agree. FBI agents are chosen through a highly selective process and are carefully screened for aptitude and trustworthiness. FBI agents go through more than 4 months of intensive training at the FBI Academy before beginning their duties and attend numerous training sessions throughout their careers to adapt to new technologies and emerging threats. Many FBI agents are multilingual and routinely interface with intelligence agencies from allied nations. The training FBI agents receive is comprehensive and, in some instances, extremely expensive. On information and belief, plaintiffs assert that each agent of the FBI receives more than $3 million worth of training in a 20-year career. Whoa, my goodness. That's a lot. And thanks, FBI agents also develop specific expertise from their assignments and field duties, much of which cannot be replicated solely by training. FBI agents often face threats to their personal safety at times, going undercover and or working in extremely dangerous areas to obtain information necessary to secure the interests of the United States. FBI agents are tasked by their chain of command and leadership team and are not free to refuse assignments based on their political or personal preferences. That's important. Plaintiffs' tasks routinely involved, inter alia, reviewing video evidence, interviewing witnesses, executing search and arrest warrants, interfacing with confidential informants, reviewing and analyzing cyber communications, investigating financial transactions and other activities for the purpose of identifying persons engaged in unlawful conduct and assisting in the prosecution of said persons and or providing support for such activities. On or about January 6th of 2021, a protest led by Donald Trump took place at the Ellipse in front of the United States Capitol building, which erupted into violence. Hundreds of rioters forcefully breached the Capitol building, ignoring the directions of both Capitol Police and police officers of the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. Rioters violently attacked law enforcement officers, causing 1 fatality and hundreds of injuries. To date, 5 police officers have unalived as a result of what transpired during the January 6th attack. Additionally, January 6 rioters vandalized the halls of Congress, unlawfully entered into secured areas of the Capitol building, and threatened the lives of members of Congress and the Vice President of the United States. Over the 4 years that followed the Jan 6 attack, plaintiffs worked diligently to bring to justice the persons who had engaged in illegal activity related to the incitement, planning, and preparation and execution of the January 6th attack, resulting in the successful prosecution of more than 1,500 people. A recurring theme in the trials of the January 6 defendants is that they appeared at the Capitol and engaged in violent action at the urging and direct request of Donald Trump. It is also undisputed that while Donald Trump was keenly aware of the violence taking place at the Capitol on that day, for hours he did nothing to intercede or persuade the January 6 rioters to cease their activity. Information obtained during the investigation of the Jan 6 attack also established that Mr. Trump was an active participant in planning of the attack on the Capitol and of the coordinated effort by some members of Congress to evade certification of the election results. Plaintiffs assert that the ultimate goal of both the January 6th attack and the efforts in Congress by allies of Donald Trump was to block the peaceful transition of power to the winner of the 2020 presidential election, Joe Biden. As a result of the work of plaintiffs and other members of the putative class, Special Counsel Jack Smith achieved a grand jury indictment of Donald Trump, which was in the process of being litigated when the 2024 presidential election took place. Right. Also, as a result of the work of plaintiffs in the putative class, Special Counsel Smith was able to secure a grand jury indictment of Mr. Trump for the unlawful removal, retention, and storage of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. During his campaign for office, Mr. Trump repeatedly stated that he would personify the vengeance or the retribution for those whom he called political hostages for their action during the January 6th attack. On or about November 9th of 2024, Donald Trump was reelected president. On or about January 20th of 2024, Mr. Trump was inaugurated. Yeah, that's right, Mr. Shortly after his inauguration, DOJ terminated all of the attorneys who prosecuted the cases. So all of our prosecutors were fired. These terminations were directed by Mr. Trump. They were politically motivated and unlawful. That's what I'm saying here. This would be a lawsuit here. And were precisely the kind of retribution promised by Mr. Trump. On or about February 1st of 2025, plaintiffs learned that a similar purge of personnel was being contemplated for the FBI. On or about February 2nd of 2025, during a teleconference with many agents and several managers, some of the plaintiffs were informed that they would be required to fill out a survey about their activities related to January 6 cases. And then we can see Exhibit 1. So let me just put a tag here so we can take a look. Let's look at this. I've got lots of filings under here. That's why the stack is so big. This petition itself isn't that big. So let's take a look, everybody. Here's Exhibit 1. These are the questions being asked. All right. So memo response, events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. All right. So this is the information that they're asking for the injunction on. Number 1, are you submitting this form for yourself or on behalf of your employee? And this person just said me. Okay, what is your employee's current title? Special agent. Are you your employee? I want to be called a special agent. Can you just declare that? Can we declare that? Are you or your employee currently a supervisor? Yes. And you, your employee, currently an ASAC or SSIA? No. Are you or your employee currently an SES employee here? No. What was your employee's title when you or your employee participated in investigations or prosecutions of events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6th of 2021? Select your answer. And so, I mean, this is, as someone who has been a prosecutor, to have people coming at you like this is just absolutely heartbreaking. What was your title when you participated in investigations or prosecuting of events occurring at or near the Capitol on January 6th? Special agent. Were you a supervisor when you participated in investigating or prosecuting the events that occurred on or near the Capitol on January 6th? Select your answer. No. Were you an ASAC or SSIA when you participated in investigating or prosecuting the events that occurred at or near the Capitol? Were you an SES employee when you participated in investigations or prosecutions of events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6th? Again, here, what division are you currently in? The drop-down menu is sorted first by field offices, legal offices, then HQ divisions, and then in alphabetical order by division, character code. Again, with these questions, everybody, are we feeling like somebody is looking for specific people who were involved with Mr. Trump or with January 6th in order to have some kind of a negative consequence? I mean, these questions are pretty hardcore. I mean, all right, deep breath. Here we go. What division were you in when you participated in investigations or prosecutions of events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol? Man, I would be like, no comment. I plead the fifth. Yeah, definitely an issue here for sure. You could plead the fifth on this, couldn't you? Couldn't you put in self-incrimination if I say anything? It looks like the government would have some kind of a negative admonishment against me, so it's not wise for me to say anything because it could lead to my arrest or lack of due process. With the turtle guy, oh no, his eyes looked really bright and happy in the picture. That's all I can remember. And I know exactly who Turtle Guy is. That's where we're at right now, everyone. What was your role in investigating or prosecuting relating to the events that occurred or at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6th? Again, I mean, if you put all this information out there and gave this to Mr. Trump and he just put it out there for 1,500 Jan 6ers to see, I mean, except for the ones that have already been put back into jail. What was your role in the investigations or prosecutions relating to the events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6th? Select all. Analytical support, approved ECs or other documents in case file, arrest, led operation or participated in an arrest, assigned a case agent for investigation, assigned a co-case agent for investigation, conducted baseline database checks for case opening, conducted surveillance of subjects, discovery, evidence collection and or disposition, grand jury subpoena, submission or review, headquarters program management support, interviewed witnesses, subjects and or complainants, responded to leads set by another office, search warrant, led operation or participated in the search, supervised squad, conducting investigations, testified at a trial. The responses in the survey are provided. So that's the last one here. And number 13, what was the approximate date of your last activity related to the investigation or prosecutions relating to the events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6th? This is pretty bad. Yeah, this is pretty bad, everybody. To ask any prosecutor or any law enforcement person these kinds of questions, that's way out of line. Yeah, this is crazy. I agree. Crazy. All right, let's jump back in and go through a few more facts here again, because this is the complaint that they're coming in on here. Or any employee. Yeah, I agree. Complainant could be, anyone who has been harmed, typically is a complainant. So if someone is saying, it doesn't have to be one of the rioters themselves. It could be a witness or another person or like a rep or a senator. These terminations were directed by Mr. Trump. They're politically motivated, unlawful, and more precisely the kind of retribution promised by Mr. Trump. On or about February 1st, plaintiffs learned that a similar purge of personnel was going to be contemplated for the FBI. So here's Exhibit 1. As you can see in Exhibit 1, the information supplied would be retrievable by the employee's name and email address or by other identifying information, such as an employee number. During this teleconference, plaintiffs were informed that the order to fill out the survey was a lawful order according to the DOJ Office of General Counsel. Again, I would plead the fifth in here. I'd be like, I'm taking the fifth, man. That's what Mr. Trump did during his depositions. Here we go. Plaintiffs assert the specific purpose of this survey is to identify agents and other FBI personnel to be terminated as a form of politically motivated retribution. Moreover, plaintiffs have been informed that some of their personal information has already been posted by January 6th convicted felons on dark websites and are particularly concerned about further publication of their personal information. Plaintiffs assert that the very act of compiling lists of persons who worked on matters that upset Donald Trump is retaliatory in nature, intended to intimidate FBI agents and other personnel, and to discourage them from reporting any future malfeasance and by Donald Trump and his agents. It has been widely reported that Elon Musk and persons working with him have recently attempted to access government databases that house personal information without regard to security protocols and without legitimate business purposes. Ooh, that's a big ding for you, Mr. Musk. Plaintiffs legitimately fear that the information being compiled will be accessed by persons who are not authorized to have access to it and who lack the requisite security clearance to handle such information. Ooh, hey, wow, they're really pulling the Musk situation into this class action. We love that. That's a good thing for, oh, you're welcome, Art Love. Of course, I'm happy to. So this right here, everyone, they are calling Musk out and claiming there's some wrongdoing here. Yeah, absolutely. Plaintiffs further assert that even if they are not targeted for termination, they may face other retaliatory acts such as demotion, denial of job opportunities, or denial of promotions in the future. So here's the class action allegations, everyone. So we'll go through these here. There we go. Let's just make sure. All right. And then we've got the claims for relief. So we'll go through the allegations and then just kind of skip through what it is that they're asking the court to do, right? Remember, there are 4 pieces to a civil lawsuit like this. So class action allegations. Plaintiffs bring this action on behalf of all FBI personnel for whom a survey was requested and are contemplated by the Trump administration that identifies their specific role in the January 6th and Mar-a-Lago cases. Class certifications appropriate under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 23A, B1, and B2, and alternatively B3. So again, that's just more filing. The class satisfies, again, this is the class action, so they have to make sure they're defined properly. Satisfies the numerosity requirement because it's composed of at least 6,000 current and former FBI agents and employees. So in order to do class action, you have to have a minimum number of people. The number of class members is so large that a joinder of all of its members is impractical. So rather than doing a class action, if you only have a handful of people, then you can have multiple people included or joined in or later put in if you've got a smaller number. So that's what you're talking about with the joinder, but there are just too many people to do that. Common questions of law in fact include whether the survey requested by defendants is collecting information to determine which FBI agents and other personnel worked on the January 6th and Mar-a-Lago cases, whether the survey requested by defendants collecting information to catalog FBI agents and other personnel for eventual termination. C, whether the survey requested by the defendants collecting information, here we go, sorry. Sticky note, is this case available for the public? Absolutely. Here's the case number right here. You can pull that up right there. And it's actually already been docketed on Court Listener. So this is just the complaint, but there are already, there is a restraining order being asked for, privacy orders being asked for already. So there's multiple filings. Whether it's unlawful for a defendant to collect the names, specific roles, and other information requested in the survey for purposes of termination or other adverse employment. This would be a great question. We've got to set that precedent out. What are your opinions on this class? Do you think the court will grant certification? I think so. Yeah, I really do. I think they've got what they need to go forward at the federal level with that. Whether the defendant's motivation here is to target them for discrimination based off of their real or perceived political affiliation. Whether the collection of the survey's information will result in plaintiffs and the class suffering irreparable harm. Whether publication or dissemination of information gathered by the survey would cause plaintiffs irreparable harm. So we've got the plaintiffs, we've got the class. Whether the information gathered by the survey and stored by FBI constituents, a system of records as defined by the Privacy Act, again, trying to pull that Privacy Act in as something that's being violated. Whether all plaintiffs have First and Fifth Amendment rights that would be violated if defendant were to disclose the information gathered by the survey. So I think that is really important too. And then J, whether all plaintiffs' First and Fifth Amendment rights would be violated should defendant use the information gathered to retaliate against the plaintiffs. Again, we've got that freedom of speech out of the First Amendment, and then we've got due process out of the Fifth Amendment here. Plaintiffs are Typical of the claims of the class because they are subject to the same decision and motivation derived directly from the AG and will all be made whole by the injunctive relief requested in this class complaint. So this term, everybody made whole, be made whole. This is what is a foundational piece. This is what we're talking about when we're saying the court can give a remedy. So even if you've been wronged, if there's nothing a court can do, then your suit gets kicked out. You're toasted. But what they're saying here is that we need something in order to make us whole again. And so that's where they're saying we have a remedy question. So again, they're going through more of the class decisions. If you want to read where I'm skipping here, I'm on page 9 of 16, and we'll skip through page 10 because I'd like to see what their relief is here that they're asking for. So this is their remedy that they're wanting. Count 1, violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution, retaliation based on perceived political affiliation. Plaintiffs incorporate all the allegations, right? Government employees are protected by the First Amendment from discrimination or retaliation based on their political beliefs or affiliation or the perception thereof. On or about February 2nd, plaintiffs were asked to self-report their activities on the January 6th and Mar-a-Lago cases, or were told their managers would be providing such information, which is a classic technique. If you don't tell us, we're going to get somebody else to tell. And in this situation, you don't know, is your boss going to tell on you or not? In the FBI, I think you could feel pretty comfortable saying, well, I'm not going to tell. Plaintiffs were informed of the aggregated list of all Jan 6 and Mar-a-Lago FBI agents and other personnel is going to be forwarded to senior members in Donald Trump's administration. On or about January 31st, DOJ summarily terminated all of the attorneys who prosecuted Jan 6 and Mar-a-Lago cases precisely because of the Trump administration's perception of those attorneys' political loyalties. Plaintiffs reasonably believe and fear that the information gathered in the survey will also be used to target them for retaliatory discharge due to Trump's administration's perception of their loyalty. So, we're talking about how does the First Amendment apply? So how they're working on it here is they're saying, you have a freedom to associate with whatever group you want. And so they're saying, like, if you don't think we're loyal to Donald Trump and that's why you're firing us, then that's a First Amendment violation of freedom of association. Okay, so that's their big piece in count 1 for the First Amendment. So let's skip through here a little bit more. Violations of the Fifth Amendment. So this is the due process piece, and due process tends to be one of the most litigated issues when we are in criminal court, of course, and when we're dealing with terminations. A lot of times proper due process hasn't been followed. So violation of the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, violation of plaintiff's substantive and procedural due process rights. So 2 different levels. Now, for anyone who's interested, let me make sure I put his name up here right. Is it Wisco? Am I putting his name in there right, VC? I don't know. But he really likes to talk about substantive due process. So for anyone who is knowing who I'm talking about, can you double check and make sure that I wrote his name correctly? He is a creator on here. Yes, okay. He is a creator on here. Oh, very wise. Very, very wise person. And he really has some very good stuff to say on substantive due process. So highly recommend taking a look if you want to go more in depth into the due process. Wisco Takes. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I've spoken to him multiple times. Actually, I just did a live with him not very long ago where we just chatted for like an hour, and it was just fantastic. So highly recommend if you're interested in learning more about this difference with substantive and procedural due process. So plaintiffs incorporate all of the allegations in their previous paragraphs as if fully restated herein. The Fifth Amendment to the Constitution protects against harms to a person's reputation caused by government actors, often referred to as reputation plus and stigma plus harms. Plaintiffs have clearly defined interest in the maintenance of their reputations as professionals acquired over years of faithful service to the United States. So again, we have to really remember here that this is a huge hit on their reputation. Here, the potential for publication of information related to their work on January 6th, the Mar-a-Lago cases, is an imminent threat to both their reputations and to their prospects for either continued or future employment. So if they're named in this questionnaire and it's given out, it could very well be used against them in the future to say you don't have any loyalty or you're not trustworthy, you're not dependable. Of course, and Legal Dad and Barrister, of course. Oh, we love them. We adore them. Wisco's the one who I've actually seen bits and bobs on his substantive due process. So that always his name comes to mind whenever I'm going through that. Not only would the publication of plaintiffs' names and other identifying information harm their safety and reputations, but it would also burden their ability to find future employment with any entity with an interest in maintaining positive relationships with the Trump administration. Slugger's good also, I agree. So, hold on here, everybody. Black mark on work record, exactly. And if there's anyone you're working for where you don't want a black mark on your record, it's going to be the FBI, right? I mean, come on. So let me fast forward again through count 2. That was our due process question. Fifth Amendment rights to privacy. So this one's more, I think they've got a good point, but it's a weaker piece in my opinion. When it comes to privacy rights under the Fifth Amendment. So plaintiffs incorporate, right? Fifth Amendment requires defendant to balance the constitutional privacy rights of the federal officers against purported public interest in their activities. So anytime we're trying to talk about privacy rights, which aren't specified in the Constitution, they're in what we call the penumbra, because the founding fathers were jerks. Just kidding. Sorry, James Madison. So this is a scale, okay? So we have to weigh out individual rights versus what's best for the community. So they're weighing those out, saying our privacy rights here are more important than, whatever's in question out in public. Plaintiffs assert that the public does not have an interest in the specific investigative, administrative, and law enforcement tasks of FBI agents and employees, particularly not with respect to matters that could still be active or litigated in the future, which I would absolutely agree with that. We got enough stuff to worry about here. We don't need the FBI's workload out here. That would just create a lot of problems here. All right, count 4, violation of the Privacy Act. So this one, again, everybody, falls into line with what we were talking about when I had all of my sticky notes all over the place here. So I will go through each one of these because we are saying we've got a violation here of the Privacy Act, and these would be appropriate for anyone whose information would have been gathered by Mr. Musk. So plaintiffs incorporate, right? Which just means everything that I've already read is included. On or about February 2nd, plaintiffs were asked to self-report their activities on January 6th in Mar-a-Lago cases, or were told their managers would be providing such information to Trump administration officials. Plaintiffs were informed that the aggregated list of all Jan 6 and Mar-a-Lago FBI agents and other personnel is going to be forwarded to senior members of Donald Trump's administration. On or about January 31st, DOJ summarily terminated all of the attorneys who prosecuted January 6th and Mar-a-Lago, all of the attorneys that hadn't already resigned. Keep that in mind too. Plaintiffs reasonably believe and fear that the target list will also be used to target them for retaliatory discharge. Plaintiffs assert the target list is a system of records as is defined under law. Plaintiffs assert that they are being mandated to provide information to formulate the system of record and are not doing so of their own volition. So this is against their will here. Plaintiffs assert there's no legitimate agency purpose for this list to be created or to exist. The FBI has sufficient information in other forms to identify the work of FBI agents and to either laud or discipline them for their work performance. This is the key here, everybody. In my opinion, this is the strongest piece. The FBI has all of this information. They have the information on the people that worked and prosecuted and what they did, how they did it, where they did it. But it would take some effort for Trump's people to look that stuff up. So rather than going and actually going through the files and looking up themselves, they're asking everyone to turn each other in on it. Like, I don't have the time to look for the names, so you tell me then who all these people were, right? So yeah, make them find it. I agree. I agree. Which again, in my opinion, smacks a bit of the Georgia RICO case, where we've got one defendant that has asked for the voting records of everyone. And the Secretary of State's office is like, we don't have the people power for that. And they're like, we don't care. Just get it for us. Like, what? What are we doing here? 95 plaintiffs state that they have not given any prior consent to the dissemination of the information in the target list. Right. Right. He doesn't know how to read. All right. 96. Plaintiffs assert that there is a real and material risk that the list itself or parts thereof will be shared with or leaked to persons or entities that will harbor ill will towards the agents and other personnel involved in Jam 6. January 6th and Mar-a-Lago cases. I'm just like, peanut butter and jelly sounds great right now. Should this information fall into the wrong hands, plaintiffs would be placed at immediate risk of serious personal harm and harm to their loved ones. And I think that this is very true. And one of the pieces of evidence that they could use to show this would be the constitutional DC it's not a gag order, but it's basically a gag order. The gag order, protective order that was put into place in the DC case, right? That went all the way up on questions of constitutionality. And the judges said, absolutely, there's a huge problem with retribution here. So we need to protect as many people as we can. So that would be great proof of that. Should this information fall into the wrong hands, the national security of the United States will be severely compromised. Plaintiffs therefore respectfully seek immediate relief to enjoin the aggregation, storage, reporting, publication, or dissemination of any list or compilation of information that would identify FBI agents and other personnel and tie them directly to January 6th and the Mar-a-Lago case activities. Jury trial is requested. Plaintiffs are asking for a jury trial. Of course, you include that onto your complaint just to make sure that you request a jury trial in time so you don't waive that right. And also to give the judge a heads up on what kind of a case you're looking at here. So there we go. That's the end of the first one. And I'm checking the time. I'm not going to be able to make it, everybody, through the second complaint tonight. We've already been on for over 90 minutes. But that gives you insight into the first case. I do have the second case. And I feel bad about trying to go over to YouTube to do the second case. I may come back here to TikTok to do the second one, just so that I don't get confused about where I'm at. But this is the first case that was filed, again, by John and Jane Doe's. This second case that was filed, we've got the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Agents Association. So they've got another take on it. So these are two distinct lawsuits against the Department of Justice here, trying to prevent this information that they're trying to put together on this master list of having that out there. Oh, most welcome, Conchi. Most welcome. Absolutely. So I've got a few minutes for a quick Q&A. Did everyone, did we get through this okay? I think people are at least knowing now what we're looking at when we've got this question of has Mr. Musk somehow violated privacy rights? Well, according to this, they do. They do. You're an attorney. Oh, great. We love that. We love it. Great job. Oh, you're welcome. So no problem. I will have this. I did from Puerto Rico. Oh, we love it. I will have this particular live posted tomorrow on the tube of you. I'm trying to get my TikTok lives all moved from this account over into YouTube land. So I will have this up if you've only just joined or missed pieces of it. What's the timeline for action for something like this? Great question. I don't know. I'd have to look up the rules, but I think they've got like 90 days, 45 or 90 days to respond. So what we'll have then is an answer coming back. So this is a complaint filed by the plaintiffs, and then an answer will be coming in from the defendants. In the interim, what we have seen and what is already being filed here has to do with restraining orders and trying to protect the different agents. And this one's actually even asking for a hearing. So we should see an order within a few days, actually, on whether or not we're going to have a hearing. They are requesting oral argument for the restraining order question. So we should start seeing some movement on this case because they are trying to get a lot of this information kept safe. So we'll probably be hearing about that. But again, I think we've got like 45 days, up to 90 days maybe. Again, I'd have to check the rule in order for the answer to come out. Once the answer comes out, then we start going through it like we would a normal case. We've got to go through the discovery piece of it. We're going to have pretrial stuff scheduled out. We're going to have arguments over all of the different pieces in here. I would say they're probably going to argue that there's no basis for the First Amendment. They might try to kick those constitutional issues out. I'm not sure, but yeah, this is going to be a long one. Civil lawsuits like this, not exactly like this, because who's heard of the FBI going after the DOJ because they're trying to protect themselves? I don't know. But a typical civil case can take up to 5 years to get sorted out if they don't settle it. Here, what's needed for settling this case is going to be an injunction. They need to pull back and say, oh, sorry, you don't need to fill this out, which in my opinion is really, really possible. I would not be surprised if within the rest of this week or next week, before the end of February, that the DOJ pulls the questionnaire back and says, never mind, because that's all they're asking for here. They're just saying, we don't want to fill out this questionnaire. And if the DOJ just voluntarily pulls it, then this case would go away. So it's quite a bit similar to that federal funding freeze where they came out and said, oh, we're going to freeze it. And then people told them what that actually meant. And they were like, ooh, all right, never mind. So something similar to that is really what I see happening here is the DOJ just pulling back because they just don't know what the H they're doing. So they're kind of just dinking around and, stressing us out by their lack of knowledge. They submitted the questionnaire today. Right. So I would not be surprised if by the end of this week or next week, they aren't unfrozen. Yes, true. We're in a weird situation with that. But now we've got two courts saying like, dude, what are you doing? Flying by the seat of their pants. Well, yeah, I think so. I think all of this is flying by the seat of their pants, right? So like Black History Month is gone. Well, never mind. It's back again. They don't know what they're doing or else they're just trying to mess with everybody. They're like, well, we'll just mess around with everybody and, we'll create some smoke and mirrors so people don't see, Musk walking around on his tippy toes trying to get into stuff. Why aren't they suing the president or Spaceboy along with the others? The point here that they're trying to get to is to get the memo pulled or to get the questionnaire pulled, and the Department of Justice is the one that issued the questionnaire. So they don't need to go up to the president. Things get ugly when the president gets involved, right? Because then we've got immunity questions and, all this other stuff. So if you can keep Trump out of the caption when you're actually wanting to get something done, that's highly recommended. But he will be in the caption of quite a few cases because, it's his administration. Yeah, I'm not sure about Mr. Musk. He really, in my opinion, he really bought himself a president. So we're kind of like, so if I've got $250 million to contribute to a political campaign, I get to come and take and look whatever I want and live across the street from the president. Is that all it takes? Like, okay. Let me see. I'll go door to door with my little bucket. Do you have any spare change? Try to get $250 million. Come on, man. It's a lot. It is insane. It is insane. But, I think it's a good way for us to test it. We're always learning new things. So now we're learning what happens when a really wealthy person buys a president. What happens? We've seen glimpses, but nothing on this scale. Could get involved. Right. Have a bromance. Yeah, ew. Oh my gosh. He doesn't, well, right, he doesn't need or whatever. Yeah, he's already paid. He's already paid. That White House position was expensive, but he's paid. Probably sleeps in that office. I don't know. I mean, it's a lot. We're becoming an oligarchy. Now, that's one thing too, everyone. I've seen that go around quite a bit. Oh, we're becoming an oligarchy. If you look at the history of this country, like we've been an oligarchy, everyone. I'm sorry. I know I'm just a wet blanket, but this is like something that's been going on for a long time. A long, long, long time. But it's pretty apparent here in this particular situation. And so, I think it's great to call it out. I think we're calling out a lot of stuff we've not been calling out before, and that is great. What's not great is having to call it out because they're doing it, because that's not good. We don't like that. We don't like that. He pays the kids to do so. Well, right. I mean, who puts like 18-year-olds in there like, go at it? Worry about that. It wasn't so blatant exactly, Mary. It was hidden, much like a lot of prejudice, right? So the hatred and the prejudice, all of those discrimination bits and bobs have been hidden. They've gone underground. And so now it's like they're letting them all out of the jails with all of the executive orders and the DEI language, hatred language. It's all been there. It's just been under the surface. No one could say anything. And so now it's just spilling out all over everywhere. Appreciate your time. Thanks, Rose. Thank you so much. I am happy to help out. Again, I will do you think there was an illegality in the election? Honestly, everybody, no, I really don't. I think if there was something wrong with this election, we would have heard it from legitimate, appropriate sources by now. That's not something that I think people would have sat on and just held it off. So I think if there was a problem, we would have heard already from legitimate sources. So I go forward with the idea that legal voter suppression. Now there you have it. That's what we're talking about. Voter suppression, gerrymandering, all of those things definitely played a part. But as far as counting the votes go, no, I think we went down the proper road for that. So absolutely, absolutely. You're most welcome. And of course, my moderators are amazing. So I will probably come back and do the second FBI case here over on the TikTok, just so I can remember everything. But I am still over on the Tube of You, everyone. I'm doing lives over there quite frequently. So feel free to catch me there. I usually go about 7 o'clock Central p.m. And if you look at my little thought bubble here on TikTok, I am announcing when and where the next live is. So with that, I will say fare thee well, everybody. And I didn't have any trouble talking about burner phones tonight, so I'm thankful for that. Oh my gosh, I need to put a video together on how I'm using my phone. So take care, everyone. I will see you all very soon. Have a great night.